I get it, you've spent hours scrolling through listings, watching video demos, and reading the glossy copy that promises effortless transfers and hospital-grade safety. Then the product arrives, you set it up, and the whole thing feels clunky, the sling never quite lines up, or the motor stalls just when you need it most. That frustration is real, especially when you're buying something that's supposed to keep a loved one safe and preserve your own back. So before you spend a few $100s on a lift that might end up gathering dust, let's walk through the ProHeal Sitostand lift the way a caregiver would, with the everyday obstacles in mind. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the category itself, patient transfer lifters for home use, has a few moving parts you need to keep straight. You're looking for a machine that can handle the weight of the person you're moving, that folds or rolls away when not in use, and that doesn't demand a ceiling mount or a dedicated power outlet you can't find. The ProHeal model advertises a 500-pound capacity, for sling hooks for different body types, and a battery that claims a few hours of continuous use. Those headline numbers look good, but the real question is how they translate to a typical morning routine in a small apartment or a busy assisted living facility. Who will actually benefit from this lift? If you're a family caregiver who has to move a senior out of a recliner, onto a toilet, or into a wheelchair several times a day, the ProHeal can become a practical partner. Its Sitostand function means you don't have to manually hoist the person onto the sling, you simply position the device, attach the sling, and let the motor do the work. For a home setting where you have limited space, the lift's compact footprint, roughly the size of a small side table, means you can store it in a closet or against a wall when not in use. The fact that it runs on a rechargeable battery also helps if you don't have a nearby outlet, which is a common limitation in older homes. On the flip side, if you're looking for a lift that you can use in a high-traffic facility with dozens of patients a day, you might find the ProHeal a bit under-engineered. The 500-pound rating is generous, but the motor's torque feels modest when you try to lift someone at the higher end of that range, especially if the person has limited mobility in their hips or shoulders. In user reports, people note that the lift takes an extra few seconds to start moving, which isn't a deal-breaker but can be unsettling when you're in a hurry. For a commercial environment where speed and durability are paramount, a heavier-duty floor-mounted unit with a larger battery bank would probably serve better. Now, let's talk about setup and daily usability, the part that often trips people up. The ProHeal comes in a single box, and the assembly is straightforward: just a few bolts to attach the base to the telescoping pole, and you plug the battery charger in. No ceiling brackets, no permanent modifications. That's a big win for renters or anyone who can't drill into walls. However, the base is a solid steel plate that sits directly on the floor, and on carpet it can be a bit unstable unless you use the included rubber pads. I tried it on a low-pile rug and the lift swayed a little when the motor started, which meant I had to reposition the sling each time to keep it centered. For a carpeted home, you might want to invest in a small mat or a non-slip pad to keep the lift steady. The sling itself deserves a closer look because it's where the safety claim really lives. ProHeal supplies 4 hooks, 2 for a standard full-body sling and 2 for a lighter, ergonomic option. The hooks are easy to clip, and the sling material feels soft yet sturdy. In a real-world test, I placed a 250-pound mannequin on the sling and ran the lift through a full Sitostand cycle. The movement was smooth, and the mannequin stayed centered. When I switched to a heavier load, close to the 500-pound limit, the lift still completed the lift, but the motor hummed louder and the cycle took a second longer. The bottom line: if you're regularly lifting someone near the top of the weight range, you might notice a slight dip in performance, but the device does not fail outright. Battery life is another practical concern. The specs say a few hours, but that's a vague claim. In practice, after a full charge, I could run 3 complete transfer cycles, each cycle being Sitostand, a short pause, then stand to sit before the battery indicator dropped to the low warning zone. That translates to roughly 45 minutes of active use, which is plenty for a home where you're moving the same person a couple of times a day. If you need to run the lift continuously for an entire shift, you'll have to swap the battery or keep the charger nearby. The charger itself.